Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Really appreciate you all being here. I'm Lauren Spiro. I'm the current president for the Springfield City Club. And I'm excited to have our speaker today here from the Greenhill Humane Society. We always do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you are interested in receiving notices about our meetings and programs, feel free to put your name and email address on the screen sheet and you'll automatically receive notices about our programs. If you're interested in being a member, because we're always love to get new members, this is our membership application. Feel free to fill it out and hand it to Len Goodwin here, who's our secretary. I really appreciate his efforts in keeping us organized and communications happening. And then the other board members, if you would raise your hand, just thanks for being here today. And we now currently have 9 board members, so we're pretty well filled out and doing really well. So we appreciate the board. Today, since we're a little smaller group, we don't have the form on the table to put your question to ask the speaker. After the presentation, we'll just have you raise your hand and we'll just do Q&A that way. So again, welcome to Springfield City Club. Excited to have you here. And then I'm going to ask Blake Hutchins to come up here and introduce our speaker.
Howdy, folks. My name is Blake. I'm Blake Hutchins. I'm a board member of the Springfield City Club, and it's my pleasure to introduce Cary today. Cary Leibermand is the executive director of Greenhill Humane Society, and he's been doing that since 2007. He's been actively involved in animal welfare and community organizations for over 30 years. He has a bachelor's degree in advertising from the University of Illinois, a master's degree in social psychology from the U of O. So it's a duck. Master duck. In addition to his role with Greenhill, Cary serves as the president of Lane County Community Organizations Active in Disaster and participates in the Association for Animal Welfare Advancement. Under Cary's leadership, Greenhill Humane Society has successfully completed a $6 million expansion, including state-of-the-art animal housing and the veterinary surgical center, developed a community-wide pet neuter return program, and added pet retention program. He also leads disaster response efforts for animals and people with animals. So it's got a lot going on. Today he's going to talk with us about Greenhill's mission and accomplishments, as well as its important role in serving our community. So welcome, Cary. Thank you for coming out today.
Thank you. Hear me without, or should I turn this?
Oh, yeah. There's a little button on the inside. Yes. Now it should be. Yes.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for having me. This presentation is probably going to be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then I have plenty of time for questions. The first slide is a really exciting one. So, and this is how my whole presentation goes. It's just going to be words on paper, and then there's a test at the end as well. This is the only slide actually with a lot of words. So, overview, Greenhill has been in this community since 1944. How many people have been there? All right. Oh, actually, like almost 7. So great that you've been there. When is the last time people have been there? Like, what's the most recent? Last few years?
Yeah,
You've been there
last year.
Yeah. Okay.
3 months.
Okay. Last 3 months. Okay. So
Dropped
many
off a
of you
bag
have
of food.
seen the new facility and everything that's safe now. Some of you have not seen it. So your experience with Greenhill in that time since 1944 is going to be very varied. We are a nonprofit. So overview, just we have 51 staff, 2 full-time veterinarians on staff, certified veterinary technicians on staff as well. We have over 300 monthly volunteers that are volunteering on site and also volunteering at home, being foster parents for us. And we are a nonprofit. We do have contracts with local government for some animal control sheltering, but 85% of our funding actually comes through donated dollars. And we're a life-saving organization. So this has, of course, been a transition over the years, but the next couple decades, we have been a life-saving organization. If animals come to us in need and they can be treated and healed, that is what is going to happen. We have the facilities that make that happen. We have the staff to make it happen. So it's really, in many ways, a care facility for animals in need. And then we have a whole bunch of programs and services, and I'm not going to read through all that now because I'm going to go over those through here. But first, I want to ask people, how many people here have animals? So yeah, a good audience of animal-friendly people. So what do you think the overall percentage of the population in the United States is that has like that population?
Pretty high.
It is pretty high.
I'd say 80 in the 80s.
Okay, it's not that high, but it would be cool.
Oh, okay.
And so Jamie was closer at 60%, 66%. It does actually vary by region. It does turn out Oregon is pretty much on the average though. All right, so here's another question. How many households have children in their homes?
40. It's like 25%.
We're doing like highs and lows, 39%. So yeah, so this has been changing over the years, and there was a time where in the United States, pets were there were actually less pets than children in the households, but over the last couple of decades, that has been shifting. It's been I've been giving these numbers for it is 2 decades now, so it was about 2 decades ago at this point that it was a flip-flop. And so why do animals come to them? I'm not going to ask every one of the questions, but in general, it's some of what you would expect. People cannot afford care, so they look to Greenhill to transition their animal to a new home. They may not have enough time, change in housing, family situation. I would say that's one of the more common ones that we're hearing about very frequently. Particularly anytime there's a big shake up in the economy, things along those lines. Housing and family situations are one of the biggest impacts on whether or not people are going to look to surrender a bit. Lost and stray. I mentioned the contracts that we have. That's lost and stray animals is really what that contract is about. So they are animals running loose, not connected to their family member in some way, and they are picked up by an animal welfare officer or a resident, and that person wants to figure out where does this animal go, would they need safe housing, they come here to do. Temporary crisis. So we mentioned, that I'm involved in disaster response and disaster preparedness, and that is an extension really of the work that we've been doing, again, a lot of these are in decades. So in 2000, we developed a partnership with Women's Space at the time, we spoke at Safety Alliance, to shelter animals for individuals who are escaping domestic violence. That program has then continued over the years to include domestic violence, incarceration, emergencies, so sign this hospitalized. Go ahead.
What about substance use treatment, oil treatment?
So that's a great question, and something we want to expand into. We have actually been in discussions with the it's Greenhill, right? The what's it called? It's actually on the top of your hand. The stabilization center that's being built has as part of that planning, they're incorporating pets into that situation. And as we see how things all end up penciling out, no doubt, Greenhill will be playing a role in the situation. Going through, so obviously, abuse, neglect, abandonment. So again, the contracts, there's an animal welfare officer, there's a person, a public safety officer in the community that is aware of criminal acts against animals. Those animals go to Greenhill, are treated and safely cared for there. Spay neuter for cats and some dogs. We have been operating as a trap neuter, we call it trap neuter return program for colonies of cats. We actually, let's see, going back to 2008, we received a grant from a small organization in New York to help Springfield specifically with cat overpopulation. And through that program, we concentrated just in this area and brought in colonies of cats for spaying and neutering, and they were returned back to their colonies where there were individuals caring for them. And that launched a program back in 2008, and it's been continuing ever since. And we do it for really this whole area, all of Lane County now. It's not targeted specifically. In addition to that, we partner with some other organizations like Pro Bono, or the CDC when it still existed, and private veterinarians to perform surgeries for animals where individuals cannot afford them. They do have to come through another organization to make that work. But and I would say most of it is through Pro Bono. For those of you who don't know, it's an organization that has a pop-up clinic. It's an all-volunteer organization that performs basically veterinary care clinic services for people who are unhoused. They don't have surgery capacity though, so those surgeries have been agreed. Actually, that's the medical care and same situation as well. By the numbers, these are last year's numbers, but last year provided care for over 5,700 animals and 17 different species. So we're widely known for dogs and cats. Bunnies would be the next one. I'm almost thinking that chickens is maybe number 4 at this point. More commonly though, guinea pigs, but hamsters, ferret. We have ferret right now, and they think called tax evasion. But lizards, geckos, snakes, you name it. We've seen it at this point. And I will say, providing care for all of these species is challenging, right? Every one of these species has a different need, different housing need, a different veterinary specialty, a different care need. Food is completely different. And we're really only able to care for this many species because we have the staff to do it, we have the facility to do it, we have the expertise, and as we keep doing more species, we've been figuring out more expertise. It sounds like many of you have been to Greenhill, but you haven't, and not all of you have seen it recently. So I have a few photos of what the facility looks like. This is our dog care and adoptions areas. We basically have created a combination of kennel housing and rooms, and in a fully temperature controlled facility for both dogs and cats, but also for dogs that are available for adoption and also dogs that we are caring for. We've actually created 2 separate buildings for that function so that we can make sure that we're providing the highest level of care to the animals that need it. For those that are available for adoption are forward facing, and people can come in and look for that companion that they want to bring home, that loving pet. And those dogs that are in our care because they're lost or stray or in a crisis situation, they're in an area that, or actually a whole separate building that's really focused on making sure that they are provided with incredible level of care. Surrounding these buildings, and those two pictures here are play yards. We have a combination of some concrete play yards and also some turf play yards. 15 of these yards surrounding these buildings. In addition to that, we're on 20 acres. And we have dog walking paths. We also have two big play yards where we could have groups of dogs. The cats, we call all the other species specialized species. Aside from cats, and this is some photos of the cat areas. And again, it's a combination of some smaller housing and larger open housing for the cats. The focus in our facility is really on stress reduction and care for the animals and people that come to us. And so what you should note in these photos, it's open, it's welcoming, the color is bright. The spaces allow animals to have a choice. So every single place that we are placing an animal, they have the choice of coming forward to a person or retreating if they are nervous. We all know it. And like all of us, right? Like we are healthier when we are less stressed. This is our veterinary center. And yeah, so I don't see the veterinary center so much, but basically we have the capacity in our veterinary center to operate 2 veterinarians at the same time. And handled what 3,800 surgeries per year go through there. The veterinary center itself is separated between animal care for the animals coming through and surgery for animals that might be brought in by the also by the numbers. So everyone knows us for adoptions. Rightly so. Last year we had printed out 2,830 animals. We returned to owner 1,000. And we provided spay neuter. So this was the tracking and return program that I mentioned. Spay for 1,200. So 1,200 cats. We are more, well, we're more than just about animals. So, they call you aware of our poverty numbers here. Lane County's latest statistics are 14.8% of the population in Lane County is in poverty. That doesn't include the Alice number. That's probably very familiar with the Alice numbers as well. The math up there. If you take the 14.8% of people living in poverty, multiply that by the 66%, and then that's 40%, which is the average. You end up with 41,000 cats are living in households connected to households that are living in custody. So 97% of people say that their cats are part of their family. And so our approach is basically that if it's a person in crisis, it's generally an animal in crisis. If it's an animal that's in crisis, likely it's actually connected with a person in crisis. We don't have that in isolation. One of the first things that we have done to address this, and we've made this a bigger thing, a bigger part of our program, really ever since Holiday Fire. But prior to that, if anyone ever came to Greenhill and asked for food to help support their animal, we always made that available. There was always a small little section in the front office. I've been there for 30 years. It's always existed as far as I've known. But it became a big thing. For a lot of and as horrible as that was, one thing I will tell you is that it drew national attention to our community. That time that it was combined with COVID, it was combined with all the crises in the world. Holiday Farm Fire was not the only fire in Oregon at the time, like it was all of Oregon. And, became the bottom national. And it opened the door to connections with national organizations. One of them, Your Good Charities, that's actually a worldwide organization that funnels, essentially waste products, like short dated food, supplies on both the human side, medical side, and the animal side. They work with big national manufacturers and channel those goods through nonprofits to communities to help primarily with disaster response and emergencies. So like they're addressing flooding right now. Other parts of our country, they're addressing earthquakes in other parts of the world. They reached out to us at that time, and we were able to, because we had finished our facility, or just were finishing our facility, we had the capacity to bring in a large truckloads of food. And we've continued to foster and nurture that program and that connection. So that we are now bringing in about 65 tons of food that is being distributed into this community. The vast majority of that is coming outside of Oregon even. And it is part of the connections that a local nonprofit can have while playing on a bigger stage to really help our local community. I will say amongst this, we have a few local businesses like Weimar that also help support this program. And we will, yesterday we had a telethon, KVAL, and we were promoting the pet pantry program too, and encouraging people to bring back food that all go to help basically our neighbors. In addition to direct giving of food and supplies to individuals, we work with about 20 different human service organizations. The Tear Shelter is one of them, where if there's any human service organization that sees clients directly that are bringing their pets or have pets, we can help supply them with a steady supply of food, baits, leashes, collars. Our goal basically is if this community, primarily through donations, the community is wanting to support other people or other animals. We will accept all those donations that are pet related, and then we help channel it back out into the community where they're most needed. I mentioned the Open Safety Alliance and crisis care, so I'm not necessarily going to go into this more, but basically we are many of the animals that are in our shelter at any given time. A number of them are in what we call crisis care situations. So there's an individual who is in crisis, ideally a temporary crisis, and we are caring for their pet and providing all that they need right at the time so that they can be integrated. Disaster response, mentioned Holiday Farm Fire. This community was impacted by that as being the first one, but virtually every year since then, there have been severe heat emergency, ice storms, additional impacts from smoke, fire. Again, we address all of Wayne County, so Oak Ridge, so if we're talking in Springfield right now, which fortunately is mostly not seeing the end. Ice. But we do have other parts of Wayne County that have been directly impacted by fire, and parts of our community that are more impacted by smoke. These impacts. It does make me want to go to Florence. And in every one of those situations, we are part of Wayne County's emergency team, and they are in helping coordinate with all of the other leadership. To make sure that services are delivered, needs are met during times of crisis. Of course, my lens on this is the animal side of things, but it is one of those things that actually goes all the way back to Katrina, federal government at the time after Katrina determined that every single community in this country should have a plan for animals and people. Because what everyone learned in Katrina was that people were putting their own lives at risk because they couldn't be rescued while holding their dog or with their cat. And there's actually a federal mandate that every single community had an action plan for it. Greenhill was at the table way back when and public health put that plan together. And then there's been implementing it ever since and making sure that it continues to get updated and that there is always a plan so that if there's ever a situation where any of you have to evacuate your homes, know that you should take your pets with you. There will be a safe landing place. Securing your pet's futures kind of ties this up, and I don't. The presentation gets kind of really heavy. I'm going to promise you kind of the heaviness ends here, and we're going to go into questions, but I am going to mention it. So full circle. So we know how important it is to be connected with pets. I will say that as we have an aging population, one of the very frequent things that comes up is people really want to have a pet. Great. So as we age, we may be losing our friends, we may be losing our human connections. We want to continue staying connected to a loving entity, and having a pet is one of those ways of doing that. But people are often very concerned about what that means, that pet would no one to provide that. For those people who talk with them, we actually set up a plan. It is where we learn all about the pet, we learn all about the connections that they have to their veterinarian, and we know what the individual would like to have happen with their pet after their passing. In most cases, it's going to be finding a loving home, what we're asking that. In other situations, it might be my son lives in Chicago. It's going to take him a couple weeks to get here, and also he's going to have so many other things to deal with. You hold on to that pet for a month. And we write those agreements down, and you know what might happen in the event that something else. Really cultural. The smiling dog for love. Say thank you, and I'll take this.
How do people know about those wishes that are put in those? How does someone passes in the will?
Yeah, so for everyone else too. So the question is, how do you relay those wishes? So for those of you who are attorneys in the room, sometimes the process through the will can be a little bit slow. We encourage. Well, one, we have an agreement, we keep it on file in the multiple places, so that if the front office hears about it, they know. If any of us in the back hear about it, we know. So we keep a copy of all those wishes. We do actually, if anyone's in the program, we make sure that we're in touch with people at least annually. And again, we're generally talking about individuals who don't have a lot of other connections. And so even those check-ins are important. So we know what it is, and then we encourage people to keep a card with them, so that wherever they are, someone knows if I'm incapacitated, call Greenhill about my health. That's what it is. And we have all the other things that everyone should do actually, right? So your relatives numbers in your wallet or in your phone now, and notes by your bedside table about wishes that you might have if you can speak for your side.
Yeah, pet trusts are more of a thing than a food. So you do estate planning. You can create a trust. Could you talk a little bit about how you manage capacity? I'm picturing like a never-ending stream and a fixed space and best of intentions and everybody survives. So And it has to fluctuate too, I'm
Right.
guessing, so.
Yeah,
I mean, how do you-
capacity is a challenge, so you're sitting right next to our operations director, so I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, so this is, yeah, right, so really great question, because just talking about how, great and wonderful we are, we can do all these things. At limited capacity, right? That's the caveat on this, and there's. The need is far greater than what we can actually address. The way we do it successfully is by managing that capacity. And it is, so we have, in many ways, the contracts take priority. Because those are public safety, public health issues. They generally jive with our own priority as a nonprofit. We are there to like crisis manage at all times, right? Like the animals generally that come to us, coming to us because they need care of some sort. Right for them, if we need to address it, we generally can. Generally, the people that come to us, except through the adoption channel, are coming to us because they're also in some level of crisis. They've lost their pet, they don't know what to do about a situation. So like this is generally what we do. Our staff are they're trained and we constantly exercise crisis management. And how to do so in a way that's not, really doesn't push anyone over the threshold, including the capacity for the organization. The facility itself with the expansion was actually designed in a way that can essentially double capacity in like most crisis emergency situations. So all of the cat and dog housing is actually every space that they're in is actually double sided. They get full run of it in normal operations. If we find Cascadia all the time, Cascadia health happens, and suddenly there's just animals all over the place, and we have to figure out how to house them all at once. We would start doing, we would probably need a whole bunch of staff to the Greenhill campus, which we have been working on fortifying in that situation as well. So we have, we should have a water tank on site that would allow us to operate for 3 weeks of water, electric backup. There's the new buildings are all, they daylight very nicely on the windows in them. So we have a basically very good. But yeah, capacity is a thing. It's a conversation that we often have when we talk about contracts. Of Springfield is a good example of that too. So Springfield does have some limited dog control. Dog welfare, they have no cat control here. We've had conversations about it. The reality is that it's possibly in the contractor side, but also we would have to factor in a change into our capacity formula for the entirety of the county if we were to change one specific piece of it. It doesn't mean it couldn't happen. It just means that we would have to carefully plan it. Yeah, and I would say on a day-to-day basis, dogs are coming in, cats are coming in, chicken. 24, yeah, actually 27, because we are there, our staff is there basically 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The animal welfare officer, our city or counties, 24/7 access, and occasionally they'll come in and find new animals that we didn't do the night before.
Well, I got a lot of volunteers there. Are there any particular areas that Greenhill needs more volunteers in?
Good question. I would say that all the cleaning, actually, right? So the ones that aren't necessarily glamorous, it's many people come to Greenhill to volunteer because they want connections with animals. I always love when our volunteers end up finding a pet at our shelter and adopting. And I also am always wondering if they're going to stay as volunteer after that happens, because they found their match, they found what they were looking for in coming out to volunteering. So, so we always have a need. essentially is what I'm saying. We're always bringing on new volunteers, we're always training people up to it. I wouldn't say that you're doing families with a strong need or anything specific.
All right,
Yeah.
that's through people can investigate volunteer opportunities.
Oh, yeah, so, right, so online, just, I think it's in the About Us section or it's right online. Go in, learn more about it, there's videos about volunteering. There's the online application, there's, 2 orientations for and I would say it's, on site, like the opportunities are all over the place, so, it could be on site, working with cats or dogs or other species. It could be in the front office, helping people navigate it. You mentioned the telephone that we did yesterday, so we live broadcast from our shelter. There were more people coming in for food assistance and there were for doctors yesterday. And everyone that's coming to us is in great need. And so if there's something that want to help people who love cats, that is a great volunteer opportunity to help people with their front office. We do outside events also. I mentioned our fostering program. If people just want to have puppies and kittens at home, or an adult dog that needs a break, or like all the other dogs, and use this downtime in a home situation. We have a foster program that can care for animals in their home that are temporarily in need. They're eventually going to go up for adoption or be returned to their owners if it was a crisis situation. We provide all of the support 24/7. So we provide all the food, all the medical care, all the vaccines, and if anyone's nervous about it, they can pick up the phone and listen to our texts or our vets. All the confidence they need to make sure that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah. If I have a dog show up on my property, as this happens from time to time, can I bring the dog there for you to check the microchip? To help locate the owner?
So my suggestion, because I'm assuming it's Greenhill.
No,
Okay, so,
on the county.
okay. Every local veterinarian has the ability to scan for microchip, so yes, you can. But I would encourage people to go where they're closest.
Local guy.
Just someone close to do that scan.
I would like to understand what you're talking about. This is fascinating about the capacity, and I still want to track over. But I'm curious about how long it takes, so once you animal to the point that it could be adopted, how long does it take for the animal, as well as part of the capacity?
Yeah, so it all depends on the animal in many ways. So it also depends on the time of year, if there's a duck game, all sorts of things, but so in general, very young animals get adopted very quickly. We used to talk about kitten season being like early spring. Kitten season now kind of extends throughout the year. That's mostly climate change and resource change in the community. But what it means is like when we have a ton of kittens, it might take a couple days for a kitten to be adopted. When we don't have that many, if there's a kitten that goes on the floor, it gets adopted within hours. Similar with puppies, similar with small dogs, unless they will end up being large breed puppies, or they end up being large, or they're with small dogs. It depends on age and medical issues. So those groups are the easiest ones: small dogs, puppies, kittens. Cats of any age other than the kitten age can take a lot longer. I will say that in the focus on what's tiny, the fancy ones, so those very quickly, but your average tabby or something might take a little bit longer. We'll say also there's been a change since I'm getting old enough to be like, yeah, before the internet, but really, before Facebook, before Nextdoor now, shelters were the only way to find, like, unless you actually literally paid for an ad in the newspaper, no one for that. The only thing with shelter now, social media is where, for the most part, most of the, if you're connected at all, I'll put it this way, if you're connected at all, and if your pet is super easy to place into another home, you can do it yourself very easily. You don't need the shelter. So what we end up mostly at the shelter are the more challenging situations. But that being said, your average cat is about 17 days, if you think I'm getting this. Average, small size dogs about that same length of time. We are finding an increase in length of stay for large breed dogs. It's a real challenge. There's information written about this nationally. We are actually in the middle right now of all the large dog initiative. Again, thanks to outside grants, Bill Science Diet has granted us some funds so that we are providing all the large breed dogs that have been adopted over the next several months. They will go home with a special package. It could include a whole bunch of different things, but to set people up for success. And the reason it's large dogs are a challenge is because people are moving and they're concerned about moving with larger dogs. There are actually there's landlord restrictions, there's insurance restrictions. Reality is that large dogs are more expensive, and more food ends up being more expensive. Veterinary care might actually be more expensive as well. I realize I'm doing this on large dogs right now, but we are hoping to send people home with at least some tools to make the first portion of it a little bit easier to transition. So it might be a specially fitted harness so that walking with that large dog is a lot easier. It might be a crate for if they're crate trained, so that if they live in an apartment and that dog knows and loves his crate during the day, they can just go into the crate during the day and you don't have to worry about noise with your neighbors. The other supplies, you're always there to support any pets that are adopted, whether it's with advice or it's just okay.
Your screening process for people who want to opt in.
We are doing an interview essentially, so it is we collect a little bit of information, but the whole goal is to figure out if the pet will be a good match at the time for the person. So it opens up questions just to make people think at the time. I wouldn't say it's a screen as much as it is an opportunity to have an honest discussion. We, all of the pets that we're adopting, you're looking at a 10 to 20 year commitment. We know that life changes in all of that time. So it really is about when people started out being compared what space for it. Yeah.
I have a question about cat populations, and I know it can be a pretty steep upward curve.
Yeah.
Are there any metrics about what, let's say, a spay neuter controls for?
Yeah.
If not, then you can expect.
Right. I love it. So there used to be a graphic, you don't see it that much anymore. It was called the cat pyramid.
Yeah.
And it's based on a formula of a cat once it reaches like 8 months old can start to have litters. Those litters are between 7 and 8 kittens, and then you just keep doing math, and it's this big, massive exponential thing. And what I can tell you, and I don't know if it's like research scientist or any data scientist here, but like obviously it's not real. Right? Because there'd be everything, right? It doesn't work that way. It really is about resource capacity. And what I can tell you is like the reason that it isn't that formula is not great at the end, right? It's about overpopulation, it's about disease starts to creep in, competition for food, all sorts of things. So That being said, from experience that if an individual has a couple unneutered, unspayed cats in their home and they're providing that food and they are not staying in neutering them and they keep seeing personally a couple of these situations this year alone, you end up with 20 to 40 cats in a home, which is not great.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah, just a few generations, honestly.
So the value of the thing is pretty high.
It's enormous. Yeah, absolutely. For a variety of reasons, population control is one of them. And certainly all free roaming cats should be spayed and neutered. Absolutely, because we don't want, planned pregnancies are one thing, unplanned is not great. In addition to the population control side of it, though, there are health reasons for doing it. And the only controversy around this is the age, obviously, of when you should spay and neuter. So, and this is when we're veterinarians, we probably all slightly disagree about exactly when that age is. What I will tell you is no one disagrees with like 2 years. Certainly though, from a sheltering standpoint and from a population and a safety and just like a general community health standpoint, as early as you can is the ideal, which is 2 months to family. And yeah, it stops the unplannedness of things. The negative side of it, if you don't spay a dog, for instance, the likelihood of uterine cancer is large. So that is, uterine males is also a thing as well for it stops roaming in cats, it stops potential negative behaviors in dogs as well. So seriously, if like people do not intend to have litters, they should spay litters.
Y'all know that older animals are harder to adopt. What do you guys do to encourage people to adopt older animals?
We try to be just out communicating as much as we possibly can about about all of the animals that we have available for adoption. Absolutely. Older animals are wonderful. It's perfectly set up for situations where people want to know what they're expecting and have expectations around what their lives are going to be like with an animal. Because those older animals are a little more set in their ways. We generally, if they're an older animal, we generally have more experience with either having to stay with us a little bit longer. But also we've learned about the history of and we provide that information to the contact information and provide the behavioral history, likes and dislikes, whether or not they've lived with cats or whether or not they've lived with dogs or information to adopters.
If you're considering adopting dog when you already have a dog, is there a facility where the dogs can meet each other, in essence, see if they socialize well?
Yeah, so we right in front, we actually have we have walking trails if you want to do side by side leashes, but we also have a large kind of fenced in yard that we offer to meet and greets in. We have a program we call Foster to Adopt also. So people can actually, with many of the dogs, take the dog home, not finalize the adoption until they try that. And then, we help support during that time and hopefully feel like, a longer term dating experience before the early information put everything on. We really just, we want to get those, so I make it as easy as possible.
You mentioned the peer shelter, which is looking last shelter for in-house youth. And as you know, many of those youth have pets. And so I just really want to appreciate the partnership with Greenhill because they won't go to a shelter if they've got a pet and that shelter won't accept them. So literally work with us to set up a pet forum and have that work well for those kids and their pets has really been essential, keeping them off the streets. So I just really want to thank you for.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna plug back right to you, but I've toured the Fear Shelter a couple of times now. I am so in awe of the work that you're doing. And it is so consistent with the humane world that we're trying to create, right? And, yeah, people, animals, and whatever situation they're in need the support of knowing that they have a place that you can come, be themselves, be completely reduce stress, so just have like loving, caring people around them. And I will say that that is what I've been most impressed by with your shelter, like the thoughtfulness, but I've worked with a lot of the staff there too. And how wow, just a group of compassionate people and like so loving. Thank you.
I had a quick question about donation of supplies and how that works with the community. I imagine that people will try to swing by with their, after they've had a pet pass, you know, want to drop it there. How does Greenhill handle those situations?
We would greatly accept all of those, for the most part, clean, usable. I will say it out here because I know that it'll be on YouTube. Please, no rusty, cages, no dirty towels. But yeah, I mean, certainly if you use it for your pet and it's in good condition, we'll accept it. It usually, it will end up, going into this program that we're talking about. So it'll be shared with the community if we can't use it correctly, and then we do, yeah, we're connected with other organizations that will use it. So we're happy to be kind of that fun link point for it.
Okay.
For me?
Yeah.
Is there an upward bully breeds curve?
Where do you mean by that?
I mean, are you seeing more bully breeds than you have in the past? Is it?
No, I would actually say is, so this only changes over the decades. It's been interesting being involved. So
Yeah, all the time.
yeah, so in all the time that I've been there, it has shifted and changed different breeds. Like last year was like all about German Shepherds. It's still a little about that. We're seeing an unbelievable number of Great Pyrenees over the last 2 years also. In many ways, I would say it's the bully breed like seems to be like shrinking in relation to the other ones that we're seeing still there. It's not as, there was a time where everyone said, this is the dog that I want, and then they said, this is the dog I'm gonna pass on. And it's not quite that anymore, which is nice. I mean, I will say not because it's anything about a specific breed, but more variety is important. It's important for a variety of reasons, genetics being a big one of them. But also everyone's different. Everyone living in a situation is different, like particularly with all of us, and we're all attracted to different things. And having like a population that all looks the same is not a good.
I have a question about animal abuse. So that's, we know in society, when the economy is poor, humans often be faced with that. I'm just trying to think the animals are considered here. There's some trends, you think that they're. I don't know.
Yeah. So what I would say is it's important to define the difference between abuse and neglect. And I don't know the legal definition of it, but like, I mean, we've certainly seen situations where people are just actively harming, right? That's what I think of as abuse. Neglect could also be an active, like choosing to not, give care. In the economic situations and when people are aging, and their capacity for doing all the things starts to diminish, that's when we start seeing neglect. And I would say, social media not about it, but it seems to me anecdotally it's increasing. Yeah. So what we've seen particularly over this year is like these situations and not even, I've seen a few singles, but it tends to be larger groups. So they have multiple cats, or they have multiple dogs, or they have a small little farm and they can no longer care for it anymore. And they let it go so far, it's like finally the neighbor complains and calls an animal control, and it's a problem that should have been addressed 5 years ago. And so, you know, and anyone listening about that, like, please reach out, like, we're here, compassion and understanding. And it is better to deal with those situations before they become a situation. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dogs that are aggressive, and they're like showing rooms that are less aggressive towards people.
Yes, that's a tough question. In that, so we are only with them for a period of time, and we, like yesterday, I think we had 220 animals on site. We had a lot of animals, and often aggressive dogs or dogs that are aggressive towards people are our biggest challenge. I guess I'll just put this out right now so that I'm not like tiptoeing around it or confusing people about it or seeming evasive. If we have a dog that was brought to us because it did a child, really injured a person, we do not rehome those dogs. We will connect with specialty rescues to see if they will, most don't. There are some specific breeds that people, there are some rescues that we will absolutely take these. It's rare. So what we are mostly dealing with is not like that sort of, fortunately, that it's related. You'll be on my somebody look at the owners who are nice on their back. It's rare that it happens, which is unfortunate. For those that are more like unsocialized, right? So we don't really worry that they're going to attack the person. Also reinforcement behavior training. All of our volunteers, so this. Our volunteer program for dog walking kind of starts at the very basics, and we level you up. All of our staff have gone through, and our volunteers go through a program called Fear Free, which is again all about positive reinforcement, positive working around animals in a stress-reducing, stress-free environment, so that we are shaping behavior in a way that is continuously positive and not the opposite of behavior. Controlling that's to make change that way. So we do that work. But there is no time limit that we place on dogs, but for the most part, it's a couple months, or it's a more challenging situation. Dog for a year that we have in and out with fosters, and so we'll put that time in. But it's a challenge, and it is. I will say that often it's not like it's often the dog and human relationship that makes us successful. So it has to be that connection. So it's like we can do what we can do, and then we hope that the adopter will continue that same thing.
You partially answered the question already, but do you have relationships with the various rescue organizations that are out there?
Yeah, absolutely. We're in touch with locals. We are very in touch with all of Oregon. So and there are large breed dogs are challenge everywhere to find homes for, but there used to be a time where it's like if you had a hound dog, right? Like when an apartment may not want a really loud dog, but someone in bed might. And so we would work with relationships that way. But yeah, we're in touch constantly.
I think we're running out of time. Is there one last question, or do you have any closing remarks you want to make?
I want to thank everyone for the good questions, and for caring.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, do you have any other remarks, Nick? Will we?
Lynn, what's our next program?
Our next program will review the history of the Wildish Theater. That's going to be on August 6th.
August sixth, all right. And we'll be in this room, or are we gonna be at the Wildish?
Oh, no,
Theater?
we're not gonna be at the.
Okay.
I don't think.
Okay, we'll be in this room, August sixth, for the history of Wildish Theater. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate all this information about Greenhill. And I was checking out your website while you were talking.